episode is on sexuality maturity. Uh, a lot has to do with sexuality and maturity, especially in our current uh, environment, our social environment. Now, when I talk about sexuality and maturity elements, I'm speaking more about it's how what kind of clothes you choose to wear. It will have to do, it's not just about preference, of gender preference. It's not about being asexual, bisexual, homosexual, heterosexual. It's not about those variables as much as it is about all other expressions. Those are obviously elements of sexuality, but I'm more focusing on the individual's preferences and how that directs and develops us over time. So with that, something that so many people spend so much time doing is they're looking for their concept of what love is, because sexuality has a lot to do with intertwining with concepts of love. Now, what I find, though, is interviewing people, I ask a very specific question, and I ask this of my own partners as well throughout the years, has been, what's your definition of love? How do you define it? We're looking for this thing, right? We've got this concept that we want to experience. We're all looking for love. Well, what's your definition, first and foremost? Why this is going to be a part of why so many people don't find what they're looking for. Everybody says, well, you know what love is. Not everyone, but there's a lot of people that say that. You know what love is. Well, what if the person that you're talking to has a different idea of what love is? It's very likely. It's extremely likely. Symptoms of having mixed definitions of love can be, they both agree that they like each other, but something's missing. And then there's the little arguments and fights that come up. There's that mix match. You can't seem to find a good person. I can't find the right guy. I can't find the right girl. I just, one day they're going to show up. I want somebody to appreciate me for me. Well, what are you doing to bring that into your life? If you want to find it, you must define it. That's going to make it the easiest way to put it out there so that other people understand what you want versus the vague concept. If you don't have a definition and you say, yeah, I just want to be in love, well, that person is going to go by their own inner understanding of love, and they're going to pursue that, thinking that that's what you're after because it's not been fully defined. Love is a very broad concept. Although it has a very specific feeling, there's in love, there's love, there's all kinds of things. So there's all kinds of different perspectives when it comes to that. Some people, fighting is a way to qualify that they're in a relationship. It's, if you're not fighting for the relationship, then it must not be something that you really value. Well, what does that say linguistically? Fighting is one of the words used, so what does that cognify in the individual? So that now they're trying to figure out how to make it hard enough that it feels like it's justified. Where, there's plenty of people that have those relationships that go without issues. They don't have a lot of problems, or they're so used to having fights in the past. When they're with somebody, they're getting along great, and it just feels wrong because they haven't fought. They haven't had any arguments. I don't understand this. Everything feels right, but I don't feel like I'm satisfied. Something's missing. Some of those elements can be, the arguments, the fights. That can be part of it. It could be that the person is satisfying your position on, they show me attention and affection. And that's part of what I'm looking for. You didn't define it. You just said I'm looking for love. Well, they may give you some of those elements. I feel very secure with this person. They're never going to cheat. They're never going to go outside of the relationship. They're very safe. And my relationships have been traumatic in the sense of infidelity, or I couldn't trust a person for certain variables. This person feels very safe. You feel comfortable. You feel like a well-worn sweater in the scenario of confident that you're in the right place. And then over time, the other elements that you like in the relationship or that love variable start to show up. Know that I started this by saying we're going to talk about sexuality. I'm going to tie that back into this because all of these are going to have expressions of sexuality. Now, how you choose to speak with somebody, the way that you interact with them has variables of sexuality, not to say that you're trying to sleep with a person. I'm talking about the bigger concept of sexuality. Oh, it's what types of, like, how you eat your food. It's going to have the interactions that you have with people. You can express your sexuality with somebody without having to be overt about it. You don't need to be, flamboyant about your sexuality. It can just simply be the way that you infuse charisma into a situation, which would be an expression of itself. It's part of the family. Young lady, you want to chill out? Athena made her debut. My dog made her debut in the background here. So when it comes to sexuality, it is a big, big element. So to itemize it so that we can get a better concept, love is a very important element. Define it if you wish to find it. Hey. No, ma'am. You don't have a chair. You don't have a mic. No. I appreciate it, though. Yeah, I love you. Yeah, so... Okay. Give me just a moment. All right. Intermission is over. Us. So... when we're talking about it, it's also, why do so many people have mixed signals? Oh, I have seen so many different social media posts lately that are talking about this distinctive value where they say a man and a woman, both heterosexual, cannot be friends without having interest other than friendship. I think, well, that's such a narrow perspective. You can be completely intimate with somebody but never actually have sex with that individual. Because intimacy is close to another person where I've also heard people define it as into me I see. When you're with somebody and they give you a reflection of who you are at such a deep level, you feel connected to that person. And they feel connected to you because they know that they've reached a different depth with you. That does not mean that you're in a sexual relationship. Although sex is used as a way of validating a relationship, which is also challenging at times because relationships are agreements. Most of them seem to be unspoken agreements with assumptions about how somebody else is supposed to behave, but they're really not. This is what I want. This is what I want to create, experience, and what I want to give somebody. Those kind of conversations don't happen often. What typically comes up is most people vet their frustrations into a relationship. And what I mean by that is, I'm frustrated. I've gone through all of this. These people have done these things. And the other person's like, you know what? I've gone through it too. Doesn't it suck whenever they lie to you? And you're like, yeah, I hate that too. That's vetting it. It's venting to vet. You vetted the experience. You're like, yeah, I've experienced it too. You've built rapport. You're starting to talk about concepts of partnership, which is more of what you're promising you won't do versus the will do. Right? I wouldn't do that to you. There's all kinds of variables that come up, but a lot of times relationships come together by what they don't want to experience versus what they really want to experience, which would be the agreement variable, which is, you know what? This is the kind of relationship that I want to have. And with that relationship, I'm gonna be this type of person. This is what I'm gonna provide. These are my core values of what I need from me, my me time, my us time, and our you and I time, and our all time, where I'm going to spend, where we're going to be out with other people and not just you and I. So there's stages, right? There's 3 stages to that. There's the me time, which is the core value for self. There's the you and I time, which is the core value for you and I and what we need to do with each other in order to validate where we are in that relationship so that we feel like we're at the right place and we're in a nurturing place, or we're in a symbiotic place of partnership. And then there's the all concepts. Now, I didn't come up with these. These are areas that I learned through a different educational piece. It's a holistic training process. I did modify to be more suitable for the life that I have, as well as to reach the people that I'm reaching. But the point of the entirety of is to start looking at these different levels. My foundation series is on the I level predominantly, so we can get some clarity about who we are and where we're going. being really clear about your sexuality and the totality of it, not just whether or not you have sexual preferences, but what type of colognes do you like? What kind of clothing and style and fashion are you into? Do you exercise, and what do you exercise for? It's important to understand what you exercise for and what habits you have, because far too often when people get into a relationship, they settle in and then they slip off of their self-care because they did it so they looked the way that the person is that they wanted in their life. And then they're 20 pounds heavier because of life circumstances, and they don't have to go to the gym anymore because they simply realize that person's here. I got that. We're good. I don't need to do the gym as much anymore. Or the justification, which is business, raising a family, whatever. But the boiled down perspective is they likely were doing their exercises for their sexuality, and they did it so they were doing it so that they could draw the partner in. Once the partner's there, I don't have to try as hard. We're good. The effort to get the person in my life has happened. And now I can focus on other things. And we agreed to focus on other things because we make all kinds of promises throughout the process. A lot of those promises are unspoken. They're just sometimes you sit silent in the conversation, which silence can be interpreted as consent or as consent for the process, and that the siding to whatever it is that they say emotionally, they feel like you've sided with them. So all kinds of things. If you don't say, I agree, then it's likely if you don't say anything, you are saying that. So you go through this process of your experience with that person, you're opening up, you're creating all of these variables of, these different statements and the non-statements that are statements, and that you're on the same page with the person. And then you're a year later and you're like, I don't even know who I'm dating anymore. They're not even the same shape they were before, or whatever variables show up, right? The year one fights, the year two fights, or disagreements or dissatisfaction of what's going on. But you may have social ties with that person. You may have financial ties at this point. You may have rushed into something, or it may not have felt like rushing into something, but in this scenario it would be. You may have bought a house or signed a lease agreement where you two are committed financially to this thing, and now you're gonna have to write it out. And while you're writing out, you have this sense of resentment that shows up because you're now bound to something that you can't just walk away from because you have financial responsibilities with it. Now, with those financial responsibilities also comes, I need my me space, but you're sharing space together. And you don't have a conversation that actually enrolls the other person in the I value, which is, I need my time. And it's me only. Not the I need my time, but I'm going to go out with my buddies or the girls. That's not going to send the right message to your partner. But if you don't have that clarity about what you are at that level, you're going to enroll that person into this disorganized life that you currently have. Because it's just what you have. You find yourself in your life, but you don't find the way you got there. You just, oh wow, it's like you just turn the switch on. You're like, oh, I'm here? Versus, yeah, I did these things to get me here. And stop living your life in this chaotic sense of, wrecking balls and chance and consequences and all of this, and lottery concepts and waiting for luck. And start really taking control of your life, taking every single step as I am responsible for this step. If you're just now listening to this and you're in a situation where what I'm describing, maybe your scenario is different, but the concept is still in that scenario, what I'm describing, you have opportunities here. If you're waiting for the one to show up in your life, you're playing the lottery. Absolutely, hands down, you're playing the lottery when you're waiting for that person to show up. The thing is, though, you'll get 5 numbers, not 6, or you'll get 4 out of the 6, and you'll get into another relationship that'll ultimately be another variation of the same ending, waiting for the next person to come in, because you don't realize what you're putting out into the world to draw people in. I wrote an article back in 2015 that was, I got my PhD in twerking, and it was a take on modern dating, where there's so many people complaining about their partner. Whenever somebody complains about their partner and I witness that complaint, I tell myself, what did you train your partner to do? How did you train your partner to be? What did you do to lure that person into your life? It's not victim blaming or anything like that. I'm looking for the developmental precursors that can help that person become what they're asking for. But the thing is, some people get so enrolled into asking for it that they don't do the work to get there. They become so invested in trying to ask the right way that so hopefully one day an angel investor will show up, or they talk that person, the right person, into being who they want in their life. A lot of the people in your life are trained to behave in a way that is conducive with the way that you behave. And when I mean by conducive, I don't mean harmonious. If you do something that would create aggravation in somebody else, it's right that they respond with aggravation if that's the level that they're on. You can't blame them for behaving the way they did. Well, you could. I mean, it's irresponsible to do so. But to blame somebody for the way they behaved when you created the environment for them to behave that way. Don't wait for the right person to be in your life. Be the right person. But there's a lot of work in that. You want somebody who's going to be honest. How often are you honest? If you want somebody who's going to be able to financially support you, where are you with your financial support for yourself? Could you financially support somebody else? If you want the disposable relationships, that is all you find. It's up to you, but be honest about it. I promise you, my experience in the dating world, if you want a disposable relationship, or you want a single serving or a single element aspect of a relationship with somebody else, where you're like, you know what? I just want to have somebody to go out and have fun with. That isolates that person's attributes to the have fun category. Not the, I can do the serious stuff. I can do the deeper environmental things. Maybe you need handyman work done around the house, or maybe you need your nails done, or whatever it is that would be a function of that person. It's just the have fun stuff. That's it. Oh, the massages may fall into that. The sex may fall into that. The whatever it is, the going out drinking, or the roller coaster of life, right? Well, not really the roller coaster of life. I mean more of just going to the theme parks, whatever it is, the fun stuff. But that's it. That's all that's really there for the person. That's all you want. That's fine. Just admit it. Say it. That's all I want. So that you can not create a hazardous environment for the other person emotionally, or any other variations of hazard for that person that would reduce their safety, right? Whatever that is. They may be emotionally invested in it, that you are going to treat them in a way that they would have agreed the other way. But because you didn't, they're like, well, this person's fun all the time. Maybe I want to have this more often. And then they branch out from the fun stuff and they start going into the other things, which is the commitment areas of, I want you in my life long term, or we should do something financially together, or, maybe we should do a business thing together, or maybe you should meet my parents, or whatever those committed concepts and statements or positions are. You're creating that without saying anything, because you're giving them the privilege of being able to move into it. It's a natural concept to go into, but you may be in a place where you don't want that. But because you don't know what signals you're sending out, which is the sexuality portions as well, it's not exclusive to that. It is included in it. If you go to the article that I wrote before, if I go back to that for a moment, I wrote that on modern day dating. People are going to the clubs. They're at that time getting my PhD in twerking. Twerking was a really big thing. It was also as popular on so many different levels. People of all different, backgrounds were doing it. It's no longer just reserved to what people did when they went to the adult clubs. Now it's, even kids are doing it. So it's expressive. But what it is it's taking a physical attribute of you and you're using it in a sexually provocative way to draw somebody in to bringing interest to you. But they're starting off in the very beginning as I'm interested in you in the sexual way, because that's the way that I saw you, and that your conversations may have left enough ambiguity that they could say, you know what, that is their intention. It's not to make anybody wrong. All it is that, and again, I don't come from a lot of making people wrong. It's from creating clarity. I'm not saying that my clarity is 100% the right thing. It's right for me, and it's right in the interviews that I've had with people. It's right in the explorative conversations and the interactions of all sorts, personal at the clubs or at the bars or whatever it is. All of those things, it's right for those experiences. It may be, you may be able to argue it or debate it, and by all means, if you do, comment section, please. Bring it in. Let's talk about it. I'm not convicting anybody by the end of this. I'm just saying that if we want to have a more rewarding experience in life, let's create some clarity in these areas. Your sexuality gives you places for clarity. If you're wearing clothing that is very revealing, that's fantastic. It's your thing. But understand what the other person is witnessing may make them believe that that is your interest or intent, or your limit, your use value. Now, I'm not saying that you should do that, and I'm not saying that somebody should treat you that way. But this is why we have so many people that just sit there scratching their head going, I don't understand why this person's so upset. These are the reasons. The concepts of, there was another thing that I touched in that article, ride or die. That's a fairly morbid concept for me, because linguistically, it's more of, I want you to be with me no matter what I say or do. You need to be an accomplice in my life, which is you lose some of your autonomy, because I need you to say yes, even if you feel like saying no. If I'm saying something that you disagree with, you're my ride or die. You don't disagree. You're with me 100% all the time. You're asking for it enslaves a person to the opinion warfare thing, that they don't ever want to cross the line into that level. And they just want to sit there and be like, I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you. To the definition, that's what's called a sycophant. A sycophant will not disagree with you because of a desired outcome that is resulting from you. They're living in your wake in a way. Now, it doesn't mean that they're always going to be that way. If they're constantly agreeing with you, you don't know what their mindset is. And over time, they may not have shared their opinion so much so that either they lose who they are as a person, or they can't wait to see you fail because they become resentful over time, because they know that you're a strong personality and that they don't have a way of being able to communicate with you effectively. So they would kind of like to see things happen around you that wouldn't necessarily be in your best interest, but they're not going to be the prime mover, or they may start doing things in the background to kind of manipulate the situation. Sycophants are not good places to be, because they also contribute to echo chambers. And echo chambers is where you start losing your grasp for how you affect other people, and only the people around you that you allow around you are the ones that agree with your opinion, and that you agree with their opinion. And before you know it, you isolate all other opinions to the point that you're losing your function in society, because society won't bend to your desire when all of these other echo chambers are going on around you. You may lose your mind. That's also part of what the cult concepts do, is they isolate people enough that they can make their perspectives change to their favor. So these things are all part of the process of developing into the person that you want to be. If you're wanting a certain person to be in your life as a partner, understand what type of partner you want, and you would do better to be that kind of person. Don't wait for the other person to show up that they're that way. You can create excessive dependency issues with that by, if this person leaves me, I don't know what I would do. You will abandon there's a highly likelihood that you're going to abandon your own efforts to develop yourself, because that person shows up with the abilities that you don't have, and you feel like, okay, well, that wheel is taken care of. I'm good. I can focus on these other areas. You may be working on going to school or whatever, and then they're supporting you financially. They decide they don't want to be in your life anymore. All of a sudden, you have a complete vacancy on the financial element. You have to resort back to what you know, and it may not have the current lifestyle support on your own that you need, and you're going to be in that situation where now you're more resentful, and that bleeds into what you think relationships are, where now you're going to carry baggage from that into the next relationship, which will be you're going to try to figure out how to make it not happen again. So, you're chasing negatives versus creating the desirable positives or the desirable outcomes. You will need to have the negatives in order to create the positives. It's the yin and the yang. But if you want to create a more fruitful experience, you're going to want to understand who you are before you start the process. Sexuality has all these elements involved in it to a great degree. It's better that you understand these things. What are you using to draw people into your life? That's not just intimate partners. It's also friends. What kind of clothing you wear. A lot of times your friends are going to want to have some similar tastes in music as well as clothing. There's all kinds of variables that fall into that. I'm not saying it's absolute. You'll always find that there's that the odd scenario that's not as common or more rare. So with this, with your paper that you've been using for these videos, these episodes up until this point, write on it sexuality and start looking at what type of clothing you prefer, what kind of music you like, what kind of lipsticks and things like that if you wear makeup, what kind of colognes or perfumes, what kind of education pieces, where do you spend your time, how do you express yourself, what type of topics do you like to go over, and of course this is probably the best time and place to close out the video or the episode, because I have a call coming in, and I try to shut that down. Okay. All right. So with this, sexuality maturity, you have control over it. You can develop it. It just means that it doesn't become, the more mature you are, the less likely it is to become a problem in the future, as far as you becoming more susceptible to somebody else's charms when you're in a very happy relationship that you're good with and you have an exclusivity agreement. It has, you also aren't doing that to other people. You're conscious of it, and you're capable of controlling the situation in a better way so that we have a better outcome. It doesn't disrupt as many elements at work, things like that. And it just gives you more control in your own life. So there's times whenever you lose control, and it's fun to do that. I'm not saying that that's not a thing, but it's more being in control more often than not being a control freak, but to be developmentally sound. So these are the areas. And as far as this one goes, this is the sexuality maturity. This is the foundation level. So this is more of just self-actualization and how to start working on certain things. There are definitely plenty of literature out there. I don't have any to refer to at the moment. I'll refer to some things in the subsequent videos in this particular topic whenever that's appropriate. So, all right. With that, please, by all means, hit the like button, subscribe to the episodes of the channels. Also, share this. Share this with anybody you feel would get any benefit out of it. If you want to comment, you wanted to create some dialogue on this of any type, or if it's just chat, I appreciate your videos. I really want to continue to see more of them. Great work. Comment in the comment section, and really hit the bell notification. It's going to let you know every time I go live. By all means, please, we're all in this together. Let's build this together. Let's make the world the way that we really would like to see it work in harmony, so we can all get the life that we want without having to tell other people how to do their life. And we just do ours the way that we feel best, safe, and abiding, obviously, by the laws. But again, this is Chad Everett Brochures. I am the host of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. I greatly appreciate your guys' time. Thank you for watching the videos and or following the episodes. And until next time, guys and gals, please stay safe. Also, think critically. Again, we're in this together. So enjoy the rest of your day. And